Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we've got a fascinating stack of sources for you: historical records, scientific observations, and some really rich Indonesian folklore.
We do. And we're going to give you the shortcut to understanding one of the world's most enduring cryptozoological puzzles,
A really compelling one. We are taking a deep dive into the story of the Orang Pendek.
which literally translates to the short person of Sumatra.
Right. And what's so amazing here is the tapestry of accounts. It's not just one story.
No, it stretches back over a century. You've got forest tribes, Dutch colonists, local villagers, even modern Western scientists, all describing something similar.
So our mission today is to really unpack why this creature remains such a fixture, in both local legends and these global mysteries.
Exactly. And the core of it really is how consistent the description is across all these different sources. They all converge on this remarkably specific image.
And that image is a ground-dwelling bipedal primate, so walks on two legs.
Yes, and it's covered in short fur, but the size is crucial here. This isn't a gorilla, not a yeti.
Okay.
Witnesses consistently place its height between, say, 80 and 150 centimeters.
That's about 31 to 59 inches, so it's small. It's diminutive.
Very. And that makes it hard to mistake for any known large ape in the area.
And all these, they're happening in one very specific place.
But for the most part, yes. They're now concentrated within the Kerinci Seblat National Park, or TNKS, right in central Sumatra.
Kerinci Seblat. Okay, that name is the key, isn't it? Because we're not talking about finding an animal in, a suburban park.
No, not at all. This ecosystem is practically designed to prevent discovery. The location itself is a character in this story.
So unpack this place for us.
Okay, so the park is just 2 degrees south of the equator, and it's nestled deep inside the huge Bukit Barisan mountain range. This geography means it contains some of the world's most remote and, frankly, least surveyed primary rainforest.
And when you say rainforest, it's not just one type of jungle. The sources describe it as this terrifying mosaic of different environments.
That's a great way to put it. It's truly extreme. You've got 3 main habitat types.
Okay.
First, there's the lowland dipterocarp rainforest. It's intensely dense, super humid, and you can barely see a few feet in front of you.
So if you're a researcher, that's a nightmare.
It's impossible, and any physical evidence left behind, like tracks or scat, it just decomposes almost instantly.
It gets eaten by the jungle floor.
Precisely. Then you start climbing, and you hit the montane forests. The terrain gets rocky, steep.
Full of hidden valleys.
Exactly. Perfect little pockets for a population to evolve on its own, completely undetected.
And then at the very top,
You reach the volcanic alpine formations on Mount Kerinci. It's the second highest peak in Indonesia, so you have this whole other high-altitude ecosystem.
so this whole varied, challenging landscape is really why a small, unknown primate could just evade us.
The isolation is literally built into the land.
So, given that ruggedness, it seems pretty clear that the only people with real historical knowledge of this place and this creature have to be the people who actually live there.
That's right. So let's pivot to them. The earliest accounts we have come from the local knowledge.
And who are we talking about specifically?
We start with the Suku Anak Dalam. The name means children of the inner forest.
They're also known as the Orang Remba.
Yep. They're nomadic groups who have traditionally lived in the lowland forests there. For them, this creature isn't a mystery or a weird sighting.
It's just a neighbor.
It's a co-inhabitant. It's been a part of their forest for centuries. But this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
There's a critical cultural distinction, a difference in how the creature is perceived depending on where you are.
So it's not always seen as just a shy animal.
No, definitely not. In the Bukit du Abelis region, the Orang Rimba don't talk about Orang Pendek. They talk about the Hantu Pendek,
Hantu Pendek, what does that mean?
short ghost or short demon.
Wow. Okay, that is a huge distinction.
It is. The physical description is basically the same, but this Hantu Pendek is seen as a supernatural entity, a demon, not just an animal.
And that completely changes the nature of the threat, doesn't it? If you think it's a spirit, you're going to view it as, what, malevolent? Predatory?
Exactly. The sources lay out a clear threat profile. They say the Hantu Pendek travel in groups of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
They mainly eat wild yams, but they're also hunters. And they supposedly use small axes to hunt animals.
Wait, small axes? That implies an intelligence way beyond a typical ape.
It certainly does. And the most disturbing detail is that they are said to actively ambush solitary orang rimba hunters.
So they wait for people who are alone in the forest.
That's the story. This isn't passive coexistence. This is a clear and present danger.
Which explains why the legend is so powerful. It's not a ghost story for fun. It's a survival narrative. It's a warning. Don't walk alone.
And that brings us to this fantastic anecdote from the sources from along the Maekal River. The people there tell a famous story about how their ancestors actually outsmarted these creatures.
Outsmarted a jungle demon. Tell me about that.
Well, the legend does a few things. First, it respects the Orang Pendek's cunning. It shows they're skilled predators.
But there's a but.
There is. The punchline of the story is that the creatures, for all their cunning, are ultimately dim-witted.
Ah, okay.
The Orang Marimba ancestors use their superior human reason, maybe a trap or some kind of trick, to escape or defeat them.
So the story isn't just a warning, it's a cultural marker. It's a way for the Orang Rimba to boast about their own intellect.
That's a really deep insight. Yeah, it defines them as the superior bipeds of the forest, separate from this dangerous but foolish adversary.
Okay, let's fast forward a bit now to the 20th century. This is where it gets really interesting for the West.
Yes, the colonial era accounts. These were absolutely crucial.
Because they put the creature on the map for Westerners. They shifted it from folklore to cryptozoology.
They provided that external confirmation, and one account in particular is cited over and over again because it's just so detailed.
And that's from the Dutch settler, Mr. van Heervoorden.
Yes, from 1923, he was out surveying land and had an encounter. And when you read his report, it doesn't sound panic. It's more like a naturalist's observation.
He's trying to be clinical about it.
Very. He saw a dark, hairy creature on a branch. The locals with him called it a sidapa, which is just another regional name for it.
And he noted some very specific details, right, about the hair.
He did. He said the hair was darker on its back, a bit lighter on the front, but the hair on its head, that was unusual.
What did he say?
He said the dark hair on its head fell to just below the shoulder blades or even almost to the waist.
Wow.
That's
not something you'd see on a gibbon or an orangutan.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And then he gets into the body proportions, which really separates it from just a misidentified monkey.
What did he notice about the limbs?
He was careful with his estimation. He said if it were standing, its arms would reach to just above its knees, so long arms.
But he also said the legs seemed rather short.
Right, which might suggest a body plan that's, good for walking upright, but maybe still has some features for climbing.
And then we get to the parts that have fueled this debate for a century. The hands, and especially the face.
This is the crux of his whole account. This is the detail that makes people think it wasn't just a juvenile orangutan.
Okay, so what about the feet?
He said, I did not see its feet, but I did see some toes which were shaped in a very normal manner.
Normal manner, like human toes. For walking, not for grasping.
That's the implication. And then the face.
This is the big one.
He concludes with this incredibly powerful statement. There was nothing repulsive or ugly about its face, nor was it at all ape-like.
Not at all ape-like. That single phrase casts doubt on every simple explanation. It suggests a whole different morphology, something more hominid.
It does. I mean, think about it. Why would a land surveyor feel the need to specify that this hairy primate was not ugly or ape-like?
Unless it truly stood out as being different. A flatter face, maybe. Smaller brow ridges.
Perhaps. It's that non-ape-like impression that's so compelling.
So if we connect all these dots, what we have is this consistent description, spanning a century, of a small, non-ape-like biped.
In one of the most remote places on Earth.
Yeah, and it's backed up by centuries of local tradition, even if some of it is supernatural, and these very specific, almost clinical Western accounts.
It really forces you to ask, is there a scientific context for something like this? And the sources actually point us towards some related discoveries. They bring up species like Homo floresiensis and Homo luzonensis.
The so-called hobbits. We don't need to go deep into those, but just their existence is really important for framing this discussion.
It is. Because what those discoveries prove is that small, isolated hominid evolution isn't a fantasy. It's a real biological phenomenon.
Right. On islands with limited resources, you can get insular dwarfism.
Exactly. So the idea of a relic hominid species surviving deep in the valleys of Sumatra, it's biologically plausible. It's not just a myth.
That context takes this whole thing out of the realm of ghost stories and puts it squarely into the field of, paleontology and real biological discovery.
It really does. Which leaves us with a final question. What do we make of all these details? The bipedal walk, the short legs, that crucial non-ape-like face.
And that leads us to one final provocative thought for you to consider. The sources remind us that bipedalism in orangutans is something people study. They can and do walk upright sometimes.
But rarely on the ground. And that face. Van Heerwaarden's description of it being non-repulsive, not ape-like. Where does that point us?
Should we think of the Orang Pendek as an extremely isolated and unique species of hominid? Maybe a relic that survived for millennia by being small and secretive?
Or is it something else? Is it a startling case of adaptation, an undiscovered, ground-dwelling, bipedal version of a primate we already know, one that's been pushed to the evolutionary edge by its environment?
Is the answer in deep human history, or is it in a surprising evolutionary turn that's happening right now? Something to think about next time you hear about hidden creatures in the deepest corners of our world.